You think you woke up this morning, but the truth is you were already awake inside a story that began long before you took your first breath. You opened your eyes into a world that had already chosen your role, your language, your values, your fears, your desires. Not one of these was born from your own conscious choice, and yet you walk through life as if everything you believe came from some inner, untouched core, as if your thoughts were truly yours. But look closer. Your life feels personal only because the programming was installed early enough for you to mistake it for identity. Before you ever formed a single memory, the world had already written a script for you to perform, a script you never agreed to, a script you never even read. Schopenhauer said life swings between pain and boredom, but he forgot to mention something more unsettling. The pendulum was already moving before you arrived, and you were strapped to it without consent. You didn't choose the rules you live by. You inherited them. From parents who inherited them. From a culture that inherited them. From a system that needs you to play your part without asking why the part exists. Your earliest experiences weren't neutral. They were instructions. Every praise, every reprimand, every silence shaped the borders of what you believed was acceptable. You learned what you were allowed to want. You learned what you were supposed to fear. You learned how the world should look long before you ever had the capacity to question it. And that is the first shock. Almost nothing inside you originated inside you. Your worldview is a mosaic of other people's voices, absorbed so early and so deeply that you mistake them for the sound of your own mind. Even your idea of yourself is a recycled story, told to you before you could speak. You think you're acting freely, but freedom requires awareness, and awareness requires the ability to step outside the conditioning that built you. How much of what you call I survives that test? If you strip away the language you inherited, what remains? If you remove the values you absorbed, what remains? If you silence the fears that were installed in you, what remains? Most people never dare ask these questions because they can feel the ground shifting beneath them the moment they begin. It is terrifying to realize that the identity you defend so intensely may be nothing more than a sophisticated collage of influences you never chose. But the danger isn't in the conditioning itself. The danger is believing the conditioning is you. Because once you believe that, the script no longer needs chains or threats. It only needs you to keep performing the role you think you wrote. This is the quiet tragedy of the human condition. You confuse familiarity with truth. You confuse repetition with authenticity. And you confuse the voice of the system with the voice of your soul. You didn't write the first script of your life, but the moment you realize that something cracks, something shifts, and behind that crack, a question emerges. A question most people spend their entire lives avoiding. If everything you are was built by others, then who are you really? If you want to understand how deeply the script runs, start by examining your desires. Not your obligations, not your routines, your desires. The things you chase when no one is watching. Because nothing reveals the architecture of control more clearly than the dreams you believe are yours. From the moment you entered the world, you were surrounded by people who were already shaped by their own conditioning. Parents, teachers, mentors, none of them neutral, none of them objective. Each one unknowingly handed you fragments of their own programming. And you absorbed it all, assuming it was simply reality. You were told what success looks like, told what happiness should feel like, told what kind of life has value. You weren't taught to think, you were taught to agree. Nietzsche understood this with brutal clarity. He said there are no facts, only interpretations. But he didn't stop there. He warned that those who control the interpretations control the world. Look around. Your culture doesn't simply teach you how to live. It teaches you what to desire. It manufactures longing the same way factories manufacture products. Industries rise and fall based on your appetites, so they learned long ago to engineer your appetites for you. Movies glorify a specific lifestyle. Music romanticizes a specific kind of love. Stories reward the same virtues over and over until you internalize them as universal truths. You think you're following your heart. But your heart has been guided, shaped, and trained. The young person who dreams of wealth doesn't question why wealth became the highest form of achievement. The one who chases recognition rarely asks why validation from strangers feels like oxygen. The worker who prides themselves on productivity doesn't see that they've been conditioned to measure their worth through economic utility. And because everyone around you reinforces the same values, they appear natural, normal, obvious. But nothing about them is natural. The system doesn't need to force you into obedience. It just needs to make you want what it already benefits from. Advertising isn't about selling objects. It sells identities. It offers you a role to play, and you accept it because every human being is terrified of being nobody. The media doesn't inform, it frames. It gives you lenses, not truths, and you adopt those lenses as if they were your own eyes. Social networks don't connect you, they condition you. They reinforce your habits, amplify your insecurities, reward your impulses, and punish your silence. While you scroll, while you consume, while you imitate, your brain is being rewired in real time, not maliciously, but mechanically. Not through conspiracy, but through design. This is the most efficient form of control, the one that feels like freedom. You believe you are choosing, but you are choosing from a menu whose options were selected for you long before you arrived. And here lies the most uncomfortable truth. Your desires might not be yours. Your dreams might not be yours. Even your sense of purpose might be an echo of a world that benefits from keeping you predictable. When every choice is shaped by invisible hands, what does freedom mean? When every thought fits perfectly into the expectations of the system, what does individuality mean? These questions unsettle because they force you to confront something your mind has avoided for years. If the system thinks for you, then who is really living your life? If the system can shape your desires, it doesn't need chains. It only needs to keep you comfortable. That is why the modern world is not built on fear but on stimulation. A constant drip of pleasure, a steady hum of distraction, just enough to keep you obedient, but never enough to make you fulfilled. Huxley understood this long before smartphones existed. He warned that the most successful dictatorships would not resemble prisons. They would resemble playgrounds, places where people are too entertained to notice they are not free. And this is the world you live in now. A world where every discomfort can be numbed instantly, where boredom has been exterminated, where silence feels unbearable because silence is the only space where truth can speak. Think about it. When was the last time you sat alone with your own mind, without reaching for a screen? Without music, without videos, without messages, without noise? You don't remember. Most people don't. Because the system has discovered something profound. A quiet mind is a dangerous mind. In the pause, you could wonder why your life feels hollow. In the pause, you could question your goals, your habits, your identity. In the pause, you could begin to wake up. So the pause must be eliminated. That's why pleasure is infinite now. Endless series, endless scrolling, endless notifications. Everything engineered to reward your brain with microdoses of dopamine. Little chemical hits that feel harmless until you realize you have built your entire emotional life around them. You think you're relaxing. You think you're unwinding. But what you're really doing is avoiding the silence where your real thoughts live, and the system counts on that avoidance. It thrives on it. Because a person addicted to stimulation cannot revolt. A person addicted to comfort cannot question. A person addicted to distraction cannot see the cage they're in. The bars were never physical, they were psychological, and the most effective prison is the one that feels like home. The tragedy is that this doesn't even bring happiness, it brings sedation. A soft, quiet numbness that keeps you functioning without ever allowing you to evolve. You are never fully satisfied, but you are never fully dissatisfied either. You stay suspended in the middle, too soothed to rebel, too restless to think, too distracted to change. Schopenhauer said life swings between the pain of wanting and the boredom of having. But modern society found a third state, a continuous state of stimulation that hides both pain and boredom under a flood of noise. This is why so many people feel anxious the moment the screen turns off. Their minds are not used to stillness. Their identity depends on distraction. But ask yourself, if you cannot sit alone with your own mind, whose life are you really living? Pleasure is not the enemy. But when pleasure becomes the mechanism that shapes your behavior, directs your attention, and numbs your potential, it becomes a prison. a velvet cage, soft, comfortable, but inescapable unless you learn to see it for what it is. And the moment you finally see it, a terrifying realization emerges. If your discomfort has been medicated, if your silence has been erased, if your mind has been trained to need constant noise, then how much of you is left untouched? There is a point in every conditioned life where the system plays its most brilliant trick. It convinces you that you are unique, not because you truly are, but because believing you are different makes you easier to control. Look around. Millions of people dress the same, speak the same, chase the same goals, worship the same lifestyles, and yet each one is certain they are an exception, a special case, someone who thinks for themselves. But if everyone believes they are thinking independently while following identical patterns, something is wrong. This isn't individuality, it's synchronized imitation disguised as self-expression. The market knows this. That's why every rebellious identity you adopt was mass-produced long before it reached you. Every aesthetic, every personality type, every tribe you feel drawn to, all of them pre-packaged, pre-labeled and ready to sell. You pick your style from a catalog. You pick your opinions from a feed. You pick your personality from a set of templates that millions of others picked too. Then you call it freedom. But true individuality is dangerous. It disrupts categories. It resists simplification. It cannot be monetized. That's why society tolerates only a safe version of individuality, the kind that stays within predictable boundaries, the kind that can be marketed, the kind that never threatens the system that created it. Even your rebellions were anticipated. Even your nonconformity was mapped out decades before you were born. The system doesn't fear your resistance. It expects it. It uses it. Your so-called uniqueness becomes another product, another identity, another niche. You feel different, but you fit perfectly into a demographic profile that companies and institutions understand far better than you understand yourself. Nietzsche warned about the danger of the herd, not the physical crowd, but the collective mind that moves as one while convincing each member that they are acting alone. That is the modern ego, a fragile structure built from borrowed ideas and external validation, a public performance that requires a constant audience to survive. Social media accelerated this illusion. Life has become a stage where everyone plays a character. Every post is a declaration of identity. Every like is proof that the character still exists. And the moment the audience disappears, the identity begins to crumble. People think they fear loneliness, but what they actually fear is the collapse of the persona they have spent years constructing. This is why silence feels suffocating. Without noise, you hear the cracks. Without distraction, you see the inconsistencies. Without an audience, you feel the emptiness beneath the mask. And this brings us to the hardest truth so far. If you removed every borrowed trait, every imitation, every adaptation, every identity you assembled from the outside, what remains? Most people avoid this question because they intuitively know the answer. Without the mask, they don't know who they are. Not because they lack a self, but because they never built one. They only built a performance. And a performance cannot survive once the stage lights go out. Awakening is romanticized by people who have never experienced it. They imagine clarity, peace, enlightenment, as if truth were gentle. But truth is not gentle. Truth arrives like an earthquake. The first crack appears quietly, a moment of lucidity, a sudden discomfort, an intuition that something about your life doesn't fit. At first, you ignore it. You call it stress, fatigue, overthinking. But cracks don't close, they spread. And one day, without warning, the mask you've worn your entire life begins to fracture. The identity you spent years perfecting suddenly feels artificial. Your ambitions no longer feel self-generated. Your habits feel mechanical. Your beliefs, once sacred, start to look suspiciously like hand-me-downs. This is the violence of awakening. You begin to see the world without the filters that once protected you. You notice how people repeat the same narratives as if reading from a shared script. You notice how conversations feel automated. You notice how society rewards conformity and punishes depth. You notice how asleep everyone is and how asleep you were. This realization is not liberating, not at first. It is destabilizing, terrifying. It feels like standing on a cliff with the ground dissolving beneath you. All the things that once gave your life meaning, success, approval, belonging, start to lose their weight. You no longer know what to trust. You no longer know what is real. Even your own mind feels foreign because you finally see how much of it was borrowed. This is why awakening feels like destruction, because something must die before anything authentic can be born. The comfortable illusions fall away one by one. The illusion of control, the illusion of certainty, the illusion of inherent purpose, the illusion of being the author of your own identity. And when these illusions collapse, what remains is not peace, but emptiness. A silent, echoing emptiness that most people spend their whole lives avoiding. You realize why society is built on distraction. Without distraction, you would have to confront the void. Without illusion, you would have to confront yourself. This emptiness is the point where many people turn back. They run to comfort, to entertainment, to ideology, to anything that can shield them from the rawness of reality. But if you endure it, if you sit with the discomfort instead of fleeing, something extraordinary happens. You begin to see with eyes that are finally your own, not society's eyes, not your parents' eyes, not the eyes of the system that shaped you, yours. And what you see is unsettling but liberating. Your life can be rebuilt, but only after the old structure collapses. You cannot awaken and stay the same. You cannot see through the illusion and continue playing the same role. Awakening demands a death before it grants a rebirth. This is why it feels violent. Not because reality is cruel, but because illusion was comforting. And once the mask finally cracks beyond repair, there is no returning to sleep. You can close your eyes, but you cannot unsee. Once the mask cracks, you face a truth that most people spend their entire lives avoiding. No one is coming to rebuild you. There is no system prepared to guide you back to yourself. No philosophy ready to hand you meaning. No guru, no ideology, no spiritual shortcut that can do the work for you. Because anything external, any method, any dogma, any ready-made path would only become another layer of conditioning, another script, another mask. Deprogramming begins when you stop searching for someone to tell you who to be. It starts with a question that feels like a blade. What in me is truly mine, and what was installed? You begin to examine your beliefs with forensic precision. Is this value something I discovered or something I was taught to defend? Is this ambition something I feel deeply, or something I absorbed from a culture obsessed with achievement? Is this fear a real signal, or a programmed reflex designed to keep me compliant? For the first time, you see how much of your inner life is inherited, not chosen, not understood, just adopted. And this realization is both liberating and terrifying, because it means you have to confront the possibility that your entire personality, the one you've protected, promoted, and performed for years, may not be you at all. Nietzsche called this process becoming who you are. Not becoming something new, not becoming something better, but stripping away everything false until only the essential remains. But to do that, you must be willing to lose the version of yourself that others once applauded. Deprogramming is not glamorous. It's not aesthetic. It's not a spiritual performance you can post online. It is quiet, solitary, often brutal work. You sit with your contradictions. You confront your shadows. You admit the truths you once buried under distractions and excuses. You realize how much of your behavior was reactive, not conscious. How often you chased goals to soothe childhood wounds. How many of your dreams were actually survival strategies dressed as ambition. How many of your relationships were shaped by fear of abandonment, not genuine connection. Deprogramming forces you to face the parts of yourself you've avoided for decades. The envy, the insecurity, the craving for approval, the fear of insignificance, the rage you repressed, the loneliness you denied. Most people will never walk this path because it requires emotional self-surgery without anesthesia. It requires honesty so sharp it cuts through every illusion you once used to function. But something sacred happens in this darkness. When you stop performing, your real voice, the one that was buried under noise, fear, and imitation, begins to whisper. At first it is faint, it trembles, it doubts itself, but it is yours. And as you remove the layers of conditioning, the whisper grows stronger. You begin to feel what resonates and what repels. You begin to choose, not react, act, not obey, want, not imitate. Authenticity reveals itself not as a grand revelation, but as a quiet clarity. This is mine. This is not. And for the first time, you sense something you've never fully tasted before. Not happiness, not peace, but possibility. The possibility of a life that emerges from within you, not imposed upon you. A life that you shape instead of inherit. A life that begins the moment you stop performing the person you were told to be. There comes a moment, quiet, almost imperceptible, when you finally see the script for what it is. Not destiny, not identity, not truth, just a pattern you were born into. And once you see it, even for a second, you can never fully return to the life you had before. You wake up differently, not into the loop of wake up, work, consume, repeat, but into the realization that the loop was never your life. It was your conditioning. The world hasn't changed. Your routines haven't changed. The people around you haven't changed, but you have. Because now every time you act, you ask a question most people never dare to ask. Is this me or the script? And suddenly, the smallest decisions reveal their true weight. You notice when you're performing instead of expressing. You notice when you're obeying instead of choosing. You notice when a desire arises and you can trace it back to its origin, a commercial, a childhood reward, a cultural expectation, a fear you didn't know you had. You begin to see your life in layers, not as a single solid identity, but as a construction you can dismantle and rebuild. This is the beginning of real freedom. Not the freedom to do whatever you want, but the freedom to want something that wasn't programmed into you. Living outside the script doesn't mean rejecting society. It doesn't mean isolating yourself, abandoning ambition, or becoming an outsider for the sake of rebellion. It means moving through the world with eyes open. It means noticing where the automatic ends and the authentic begins. It means refusing to let your life be shaped by inertia. You stop searching for meaning in the places the system points to, status, applause, conformity, and you begin listening to the faint, quiet pull inside you, a pull toward honesty, toward clarity, toward a life that aligns with the deepest parts of you, the parts untouched by noise and imitation. And a subtle shift occurs. Where there used to be fear, there is now space. Where there used to be anxiety, there is now awareness. Where there used to be scripts, there is now possibility. Not certainty, not comfort, possibility. You realize that you will never fully escape conditioning, no one does, but you can see it. You can question it, you can refuse to be ruled by it, and that alone changes everything. Because the moment you begin to rewrite even a single line of your life, the entire script loosens its grip on you. You become less predictable, less programmable, less controlled. Not because you fight the system, but because you stop feeding the illusion that you are identical to the role it assigned you. You were born into a script you did not write. But the next chapter, the one that begins after this moment, is no longer automatic. It is conscious. It is deliberate. It is yours. If something in you shifted while listening to this, it means the awakening has already begun. And once it begins, it rarely stops. You can step back into the loop, or you can take responsibility for shaping the life that unfolds from this point forward. The script you inherited brought you here. What you do next, that part is finally in your hands. If this message spoke to you, leave a trace of your awakening in the comments. And if you want to continue this journey of deprogramming, clarity, and inner transformation, subscribe to the channel. There is much more to uncover, and you don't have to walk this path alone.